everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday, and today I am excited to finally be sharing with you these Nila Colori watercolors. You might have seen these going around YouTube a couple months ago. It took me a little bit longer to get my video together, but I'm ready now, so let's go ahead and jump on in. First, a little bit about the company. Nila Colori is an Italian brand of handcrafted watercolors founded by Carlo Ferreira. According to the company's website, science and tradition are the two pillars that they base their entire collections on to provide artists with carefully crafted paints. Their paints contain pure pigment, gum arabic, vegetable glycerin, and an eco-friendly preservative. They are available open stock, starting at around 4.5 euros per half pan, or in a variety of sets at a slightly discounted price, including a 3-color intro box, a 6-color basic box, an 8-color mineral box, and a 12-color premium box. These two sets were sent to me by Carlo to take a look at and show on the channel if I did indeed turn out to like them. However, this is not a sponsored video, and the links in the description are not even affiliate links, so I'm not making any royalties on this video. All opinions, as always, are my own. The larger of the two boxes is the premium box with 12 colors, and it has a sturdy velvet foam insert. The pans are not individually wrapped, which I actually prefer because it's both less wasteful and less of a hassle when I open up my new box of watercolors. However, the box itself is an unfinished wood and it doesn't have a mixing area, so it isn't a particularly practical palette for everyday use. The smaller tin is the Basics box, which has 6 colors and did have a lovely wax seal on the front of it, though unfortunately it was crushed and fell off during the shipping process from Italy. These pans are fitted with slim magnets that hold the pans in place, but they don't take up too much space, which I really like. Finally, in the package that I received, Carlo included a few extra colors, I assume based on the email conversation that we had about my specific preferences for pigments. It was very kind of him to go above and beyond to make sure that I could try out these extra colors, so a big thank you to him for that. If I do have one piece of feedback regarding the packaging, it's that I would love to see less plastic for their open stock pans. The packaging that they saved by not wrapping their individual pans in their sets is counteracted by the open stock pans because they're individually wrapped in these somewhat large plastic bags. Now on to the paints themselves. I love handmade paints and I was super excited to try these out, especially because among them were some very unique pigments that I have never tried before. However, before I felt that I could get to know them in a painting setting, I really wanted to arrange them in a way that worked for me and my workspace in a more convenient palette, and I knew just the one I was going to use. After having moved all my Schmincke pans into that larger palette a little while back, I had been looking for a collection of paints that was deserving to fit in this awesome little 3-row Schmincke travel box. In addition to all the paints, Carlos also sent me a really lovely detailed brochure of all the colors in the line. And before sitting down to record, I went through and marked all the colors that were sent to me, which shockingly was all but 6, so I'm very grateful to be able to try out so many of these colors. Each pan is labeled with a handwritten code that corresponds with the chart, some of them of which make sense in English, like UMV stands for ultramarine violet, while others that probably come from other words or translations like BOL used for burnt sienna, though I'm not entirely sure about that. The vertical orientation of the chart doesn't do well in video form, but I will upload it to my Patreon set on public so that you can go ahead and view it if you'd like to. There will be a link in the description below this video. The first thing that I did was make a tiny little swatch of each of my half pans on a scrap piece of paper and label them with their ID code. Then I cut them out so that I could rearrange them by hue for how I wanted them to look in my final palette. I still had to decide to remove one of them from the assortment to fit them all into my palette box, and as much as I love yellow ochres, I figured having 4 of them in a single palette might be a little bit excessive, so that's one of the ones that I decided to remove. But I'm keeping it safe for when I run out of the other 3, so I have a replacement. Some of the unique colors that were included were genuine rose madder, which they call madder red, genuine cochineal carmine, which they call cochineal magenta, genuine lapis lazuli, Mayan green, vivianite, and genuine indigo. Here's the final arrangement, and I suppose now it's time to take a look at them in action. My first time using them in a painting was for a Patreon tutorial back last month of this hippopotamus. The first color that I laid down on the page was the Genuine Rose Madder, or as they call it, Madder Red, which is made from NR9. That is Natural Red 9 versus Pigment Red 9, and it is a little bit warmer than I imagined it would be from other accounts that I've seen, but it was soft and granulating and a lot of fun to use. The Viola Ochre was next for this painting, and it was the only one that I really had a difficult time with out of the entire set. It was surprisingly hard to re-wet for PR101 and not very pigmented, especially for one of the more opaque varieties of PR101. Their Ultramarine Violet, on the other hand, was very pleasant to work with and added a lot of nice, cool purple undertones to the hippo skin that I really enjoyed. It laid down especially well in glazes, and it was quite pigmented. The final color that I used for the hippo itself was Indigo mixed into the other colors I had already been using, and it has proven in several paintings, including and since this one, to be a really stunning color for darks and shadow tones. One thing that I will note is that historically I've always heard that colors like Rose Madder in R9 and Genuine Indigo made from NB1 are quite fugitive, especially in watercolor. However, Nila Colori rates them higher in their literature. I have not done my own tests on them, so I cannot comment on this for certain, but it's just something to be aware of if you're planning to use these paints for professional work or commissions. I myself plan to only use these more fugitively reputed colors in my sketchbook until I'm able to do more concrete light fastness tests. This is the first time that I've seen lapis lazuli in a pan, and the only other example that I've seen in person was Daniel Smith's on their dot card, which you all know I'm not a fan of. This version is much more pigmented and has been lovely to work with. It's a lot softer in color than our usual ultramarines, but it is equally fun to paint with. The yellow earth is creamy, and when mixed into the lapis makes a really cool murky green that was perfect for the water in this piece. If you want to hear my real-time account of working with these paints for the first time, or even paint along with me, this tutorial, as I mentioned before, is available over on my Patreon alongside 50 more of my other real-time tutorials at this time. All in all, I really like the feel of these paints, aside from the stubborn violet oxide. I feel like they're special, but in a way that makes me really excited to use them rather than feeling like they're too precious to experiment with. I did a few more sketches after the hippo to try and utilize as many of the other colors as possible to also show you in this video. I painted a lilac-breasted roller, which I also did when I was reviewing another line of handmade paints a while back, but there's just something about them that goes so well with the handmade color lines, including unique magentas and the malachite color here. The magenta is lovely, but I will say that I didn't particularly want or ask for it. For those of you who don't know, this pigment is made out of the dried bodies of gravid females of a specific scale insect species. To be entirely fair, I couldn't find any research one way or another that talks about the practices of obtaining these insects or any conservation topics that might be relevant. So if you know about those things, please let me know in the comments down below as to how this pigment is sourced so I can be better informed about that as well. Moving on to some of the other colors, you can see just all around how vivid these colors are for earth handmade paints, and I love the vivid pops of ultramarine and the richness of the red ochre on the bird's cheeks. I also sketched a spread of koalas, primarily using the Vivianite, which is just about the perfect koala gray. I mixed in a tad of burnt sienna for some of the browner gray koalas and diluted the Ercolano red for the eyes, ears, nostrils, and mouth. The Maya Blue and Genuine Indigo came in really handy for those darker areas once again. My absolute favorite hue in this set is actually the Maya Green, though I haven't had a chance to use it in a sketch yet. Let me know what animal you think would be a good fit for that one, and I'll see if I can whip something else and post it over on Instagram to show it off a bit more. I hope that you guys enjoyed this look at the Nila Colori watercolors. Thank you so much to Carlos for sending these to me to take a look at and to give my thoughts on for all of you. If you want to find these paints, there is a link to their website in the description below. Thank you so much to my patrons for being my rocks, my superstars, and to each and every one of you for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing if you'd like to see more watercolor content. I will see you next time, and until then, happy painting!